Welcome. So glad you've joined us today. If you're not sitting down, you better, because this next guest could cause you to fall over with the information that can break you through into a whole new lifestyle. Some things you have been facing, not because your body's out of shape or because your system is diseased, but there has been against you a spiritual attack. And after all, the Bible does say, Ephesians 6, that we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against what? Principalities, powers, spiritual wickedness in high places. Sometimes we forget that. In our country, we become so naturalized just to what we see in our logic. I've been overseas, as well as our guest. He comes from Nigeria, and you see some things there that awaken you to the spiritual world like you don't usually see in America. However, that does not mean that we don't face the demonic realm. Today, you might be facing something that you've tried to solve on your own, perhaps with a psychiatrist or a medical doctor or a nutritionist, and you've tried everything. Well, I want you to listen, because you may be dealing with a spiritual problem that you can overcome today. We have as our very special guest Pastor Femi Akojenu, and you're all the way from Nigeria, but you live now in Queens, New York. You're the pastor of Life Zone Church. You've been a spiritual warfare expert in the Deliverance Zone. New York Times came out. They featured you in one of their articles. You do at universities, high school seminars, and you have a real passion to get people delivered. I want to say I'm very thankful. You don't even know this. The last time we were together, I was facing something I never had in my life. I had pinched a nerve, and the doctors couldn't find out why the electrical impulses in my body were going kind of crazy. And it would start in my neck, go down to my heart, and it would feel like your heart was skipping beats for like 10 minutes. And I would get strange sensations with this. And nothing was wrong, according to the doctor, but the pinched nerve was causing this. And nothing was helping on the pinched nerve for almost 2.5 months. I met you, and you said you may have something in your house that came through a witch. And of course, I thought, well, I don't know any witches. But of course, spiritual warfare is involved when you have rebellion, is as the sin of witchcraft.
That's right.
Anyhow, remembered somebody was so rebellious that gave us a gift. We got it out of our house. I remembered the prayer you prayed over me, and the day was December the 10th. It left my body like that and hasn't been back.
Praise God.
So it's not solved, this one, through medicine or through nutrition or through a psychiatrist, but it was spiritual warfare, and you're in.
There's an analogy I've used before, and I think it well explains this. In New York, by God's grace, I have a property there, and I remember I was going to rent out one of my apartments to, Section 8 clients or tenants, rather. So the city expects you to, allow them to come in and inspect the apartment. So they came in. They had some requirements, and I did my best to meet the requirements. And one of the things I did was I got like because I have a hardwood floor, and I got some liquid that you can use to shine the wood floor. Mm-hmm. So, I mopped the floor. As far as I'm concerned, the wood was shining. Mm-hmm. So when the lady came to inspect, she saw that the wood was shiny, but she also noticed that there were gum stains here and there. Mm-hmm. And so she said, well, I'm going to fail this inspection. And among other reasons, the gum stain. She said, you need to get rid of this gum stain. So what I had done was I did a general mopping, which is kind of like most of the prayers that people get in church. It's that general prayer, like the general mopping. It will remove some dirt, yes. But there are some other stuff there that you have to actually, like I did, I had to actually get on my knees, take a knife, and scrape each one by one. Mm-hmm. So when it comes to spiritual warfare and attacks and things that people are going through, those things are persisting or staying there in their life because all they've done so far, the kind of prayers they've done so far, it's like the general mopping. It removes some stuff, but there's some stuff that are like deep-rooted that you have to specifically pray, specifically address, specifically command to leave. So when you see in your life things that seem to be deep-rooted, things that seem to be reoccurring, things maybe that are generational, those you don't just pray a general prayer.
Okay.
You have to now address that, break that. If there is a covenant involved, you have to specifically break the covenant. If there is some evil dedication that's been done, you have to specifically cancel that. You have to remove the legal rights. And so those deep-rooted stuff, they usually have a legal reason to be there. And so if you don't remove that, they will just kind of linger around and they'll continue to do damage in your life. They dabbling into other things, although they go to church.
Yeah.
And the reason why they comfortably do that is because most of our churches, we talk about witchcraft on a general level. We never really call it out and say, okay, when you're wearing this, you're wearing that, or you're doing this or doing that, or hanging this, on the door and all that kind of stuff. So we don't really break it down. So the people don't really know. So when you say, don't practice witchcraft, they say to themselves, I'm not a witch, so that doesn't apply to me, when indeed it actually applies to them.
That's right.
And the door is opened, and Galatians 3 says, "Oh foolish Galatians, who has bewitched you?" That means that those Christian people in Galatia, they were bewitched. They're Christians, but bewitched. Who hath bewitched you? There's always a who behind bewitchment, but then there's also the possibility of a Christian being bewitched, and it says foolish Galatians. And there are many people in our churches, because of doors they have opened, they are foolish.
Yes.
And they're opening the doors, and these attacks are working against them. There's a need to break those things so that people can be set free.
Man of God, you are somebody special. I'm serious, because churches don't get that. Why do you think they don't speak about it in churches more? Or, a lot of times they don't know about it, but they can bring people in. Why do you think this is not happening?
There's ignorance, number one. Number two, fear.
Yeah.
Sometimes people are afraid. Number three, sometimes, they know their own lifestyle is not right, so they don't want to go that route, because they are afraid that, if I mess with that, the devil can deal with me.
Well, I just want you to know, man of God, you sharp today too.
Thank you.
Now, you sharp in the spirit, but you sharp in the natural also.
There are demons that sleep with human beings.
Okay, so, Pastor, explain that. How can a demon that is a force, correct? Not human, not flesh, can sleep with a human being?
Well, just like in the Bible, it talks about the giants and, those spirit beings, basically, that slept with humankind. So if it's happened in the Bible, then there is incubus and succubus, or some people may call it incubus and succubus. Those are spirits, beings that one is female and one is male. What they do is they have sexual intercourse with human beings. So now there are those who...
Pastor. When you say sexual intercourse, that means exactly how a male and female, a married couple, will have.
That's right.
Okay.
Now, they will not see a physical being. In some cases, they will just know that they wake up and they feel like they've had an orgasm.
Okay.
Or in some cases, they actually feel like something pressed on them. Or in some cases, it felt like a dream, like they were having a dream and that they were, sleeping with somebody in their dream. But then when they wake up, they see that, whoa, something came out, like I actually had real sex, because it's real sex. But since 2006, I started teaching regularly on Deliverance. New York Times came out, they saw one of my flyers, sent their reporters to come to several meetings, and actually wrote an article about it. So since 2006, I've been teaching on Deliverance, really opening the eyes of people. And so it's been a passion of mine ever since.
Yeah. So do you feel like that we as Christians sometimes ignorant concerning the enemy and how he come in through open doors in our lives?
Well, a lot of Christians are ignorant about many things. For example, you see Christians who are getting into New Age, and through that, they open the door of their lives. Sometimes they're looking for help. They go somewhere and have them lay hands on them without really knowing who is laying hands on them.
Yeah.
And through that, there's some transference of spirits, evil spirits, into their lives. You have Christians, for example, who maybe they want to move forward in life, and there's nothing wrong with that. but they go connect with a life coach, or they connect with some motivational somebody that's doing something, but that person teaches them, okay, this is what you can do with your health, this is what you can do with money. That's all good, but then also introduces them to like meditation, and some other demonic stuff.
Wow.
And they blindly follow that. I'm thinking about a lady who's been on the Oprah Winfrey show so many times.
Yeah.
And one night was on that show and was telling millions of people in America to repeat some words after her. She was saying those words in my language, in Nigerian language.
Yeah.
They call it Yoruba language. She was saying it in the Yoruba language, and millions of people in America were repeating what she was saying.
Wow.
Without knowing what she was saying. But she was actually leading them to saying some kind of words of prayer
Wow.
to demons. People sometimes, in wanting to make a new friend, just overlook all that. And so you need to pay attention to what the person is saying. And I would say, ask them questions, find out, where they are spiritually. Sometimes, just because somebody's saying praise God and bless God, all that stuff, when you dig deeper, you realize that, yeah, that's just a camouflage. What they're really into is the occultic, right? So you have that on one side.
We don't know which God they're praising.
Correct. So you need to find out. You can't just just accept the fact that they just say God bless you and all that stuff. That also leads to self-imposed curses. So you can also put a curse on yourself by negatively speaking into your own life.
Yeah.
What death and life are in the power of the tongue.
Yeah.
And you are snared by the words of your mouth. And then if you keep thinking negative thing, oh, I don't think they'll give me the job. You keep thinking like that, they won't give you the job. So you find out that you have all these roadblocks in your way, and sometimes it's not even spirits that is doing this, it's you. That's doing this. And so there's a need to change how you think, because how you think will affect you. So you need to change how you think. You need to change what you say, to break that off. But there are many, many doorways that people open to Satan, and it allows the enemy to be able to come in, and that enemy has to be cast out.
And the American, even church, but population in general, has become dumbed down
That's right.
to spiritual things and to what's happening in the spirit realm. And so the devil's having a field day.
He's having a field day, and a lot of believers, unfortunately, are suffering.
Yeah.
And, many of the things that they're going through, if they were to tell, their pastors will say, there's no such thing. No, that doesn't exist. For example, if you're having a dream and somebody's always sleeping with you, well, which pastor are you going to tell that I'm having such experiences, and they will understand that that's a spirit husband or that's a spirit wife? In most cases, they don't know what that is. Or they don't know that, somebody's working some, voodoo on you or juju on you, or those kind of stuff.
Yeah.
They don't know those things. And so when they talk about that, they just say, no, you're fine. You're saved, you're fine.
Well, a lot of people, again, I got to go back to this. In the church, you talk to them, and they're in leadership about these kind of things. They don't even believe it exists. They want to ignore it.
Correct.
It'll just go away if I ignore it.
And you'll be surprised how many people I've met who are members of churches, and they've ended up going to psychics.
Yeah.
They go to Obia men, they call them, in Queens area there. The Jamaicans will go to Obia, or the Haitians will go to the voodoo, or the Nigerians will go to the juju. You'll be surprised how many people are in churches and they still wear something for protection.
Yeah.
They wear something for good luck, and they're in churches.
Yeah.